Have you guys noticed how dating apps are seen now as the go-to option when it comes to finding new romantic partners? But today I want to be sharing some facts on this as well as my opinions to speak about why dating apps are probably one of the worst options that you guys can go to when it comes to finding new people in your life. We're going to be looking at the actual data, which really is quite shocking. Because a lot of you guys will notice that dating apps are marketed in a way that they're seen as, oh, a great way to find people, meet people, there's loads of people on them. But especially if you're a man, this is untrue. Because on most of these dating apps, you can look at a specific app and Google it and research it, but for the majority part, there's like one woman on this app, or these apps, for every 9 to 10 men. Which means that the chances of you getting a match as a man is quite low. Because you need to be basically the best option out of 9 or the best option out of 10. And even then, the chances of you getting a response back is increasingly slim. Because most guys do respond with something very basic, a hi, a how are you, which in the real world is a reasonable question. But if you guys have ever had the opportunity to look over a girl's dating app and looked at it from their perspective, I completely understand why they don't respond. A lot of these girls get hundreds of messages, and at the end of the day, even if the person would be great in real life, they don't stand out. We're going to get to that in a second. Now, even if you're a man or a woman who gets lots of matches on these apps, they are almost always hidden behind a paywall. And that's because the end goal of these companies is to make money. They want to make profits, they want to make revenues, and if you're a free user, they will not allow you to do that very easily. It's very, very difficult to find people, match with people, and then from there, you might match, you might get a first message, and then a second one, you're expected to pay this or that. And that's even implying that you do get a second message. Most people don't take these apps seriously. I think this is a trouble for a lot of younger people who maybe just turn 18, or people who don't have much of an understanding, or have never used these apps before even. Dating apps are marketed as a wholesome way to find love. And I'm sure some people do and have done. I know people who have done. But in my humble experience, most of the people on dating apps, most of the girls on dating apps, because I am a man, I view it through the perspective of what I've seen, right? They're either not going to respond just through the way that these dating apps are made, because it's very hard for them to respond. A lot of them are looking for attention, and a lot of them are looking for short-term options. And the same's true for a lot of the men. For both genders, it's very, very unlikely that you're going to find long-term options on these apps, especially nowadays, especially if you're searching for younger people, if you're younger yourself. Now moving on to the crux of why these apps are something which I think most people should not try. And I think that's the fact that not only are there better options out there, these a lot of the time diminish people's confidence and resolve to actually finding serious partners. They go on dating apps and they base their real world value, their real world potential, on what they've seen on these apps. The reality of it is this: these apps are designed to make money. They're formulated in a way that discourages contact without pay. Even if they weren't, even if that wasn't a thing, there are a lot of paywalls, and not paywalls perhaps, but a lot of challenges that are not there in the real world. Like I say, you go up to somebody in the real world and say, hi, how are you? To get no response back would be a bit weird, right? On a dating app, all you see from someone, man or woman, is basically their looks and what they want to portray from their life. Which, no matter which gender you're on, it creates a market where two things are true. You either rate people only for their looks, the only good thing about somebody is their looks, or you rate people based on what their lifestyle comes across as. And this way of rating people is not great. When you talk to somebody in real life, you guys will know, especially when you meet somebody from an option where dating is not the first pretense in a way. When you meet somebody who you go to school with, or college, or university, or work, or a club, or an activity, you may like somebody who you wouldn't have liked if you just scrolled past them, because maybe they're not a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, but you got talking to them and they're actually a really good person or a really nice person, and you made a proper relationship like that. These dating apps, this can't happen. This actually can't happen on these apps, because who's going to go for somebody who's objectively not the most attractive option? when all you're judging on is based on looks. If you were judging on, I don't know, mannerisms or personality, that's different. But these apps, you're not judging on that. They're not designed to judge on that. And this is why not only I think a lot of people are turning away from these apps, but why they're not worth you guys' attention in the first place. But if you don't go for dating apps, where do you go? Well, I think the first thing to acknowledge is most places that you go will give you better luck than dating apps. Especially if you're the sort of guy who's going to pay for them. Or girl. If you're paying for them, save your money, because most of them are like £30-40 a month, because it's an asset or an item that can be commoditized so highly because people want love. I'd say just join some activity clubs as number one. You will meet people with similar interests, and you'll get to meet people on a base level. All I would say is if you're looking for serious relationship options, in my opinion, and again, I'm not the master of all this sort of stuff, but this is my personal opinion, go to somewhere where people can see you for you. The most ideal idea is to go somewhere where there's no need or no immediate drive to have a relationship. And what I mean by that is, think about a dating app. You go there, you go out, you get some drinks, you get some food. This is immediately a date. How are you going to have a date with somebody who you've never met before? It's just a bit weird. It adds a lot of pressure for both parties. It means that it makes it feel like you need to make a yes or no decision, whether you want to see each other again, whether you like each other, when that's not really possible in an hour, 2 hours, even a day. If you meet somebody where there's none of these pressures, you will often, I think, find that you can make more meaningful connections which lead to higher likelihoods of relationships. And again, this is where your activity clubs come in good. This is where meeting people in real life, days out, places that you'd like to go. I know these sound like old school, they don't work, but we're contrasting these with things like Tinder. Meeting somebody is free in the real world. And even if it doesn't lead to relationships, this is another thing where a lot of people get messed up with these dating apps. Because even if you've got let's say you've been given all of the good hands, you're good looking, you come across well, but you may not have the physical, in real life, abilities to do that. That's the kind of person who dating apps can facilitate. And this is why they can be so demotivating, right? Because you may come across great online, but then when you meet this person, it's like you've got to relearn everything you know about them. Because you know it, but you don't know them at all. If that even makes any sense. It's just a crazy thing. And this is why I'd really stay away from them. For most guys, most people out there, they don't encourage good things. They encourage short-termism. Everything's behind a paywall. And they're not, especially in today's market, they're not a place where people go for long-term meaningful relationships, are they? This is just the truth of it. I would think about finding anywhere else to meet someone, apart from nightclubs. Because what I think is you get a similar market on both. People who are looking for attention, people who are into a certain lifestyle. Not always, to be fair, not always. But, they're the same sort of thing. You're buying into an image and an ideology rather than having a high likelihood of meeting people. And your idea, if you're going for these avenues, I would imagine, is to put yourself in a perspective where you can meet as many people as possible. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you guys, and I'll see you soon.